There is this fascinating paradox I've been thinking about all week. You see it all the time. People who work incredibly hard, grinding away 60, 70 hours a week, yet their lives never seem to change. They're stuck in the exact same financial loop, the same stress, the same frustration year after year. And then there's this other group. They don't seem to be frantic. They aren't burning the candle at both ends, but somehow everything they touch turns to gold. Opportunities just find them.
It's the classic dilemma, isn't it? We are taught from a young age that the secret to success is effort, just sheer brute force effort. But if hard work were the only variable, every construction worker or coal miner would be a billionaire.
Exactly. And that's what brings us to today's topic. We are diving deep into the philosophy of the late, great Jim Rohn, specifically the concept of the miracle of personal development. It sounds almost mystical, doesn't it? Like a magic trick. But when you actually peel back the layers, it's probably the most practical, ground level advice you'll ever hear.
It really is. And to address your opening paradox, why some struggle while others thrive, Rohn had this brutal, beautiful way of summarizing it. He said, success is something you attract by the person you become. That right there, that is the pivot point. Most people are chasing success like it's a butterfly they're trying to catch with a net. They're running around, sweating, exhausting themselves. Rohn's philosophy is stop running, build a beautiful garden, and the butterfly will come to you.
That is such a powerful image. But let's be honest, it's also a bit terrifying for people to hear because it puts the responsibility squarely on us. If I'm not attracting success, it's not the economy, it's not my boss, it's me.
It is terrifying, but it's also incredibly liberating. If it's the economy's fault, you're helpless. If it's your fault, or let's say your responsibility, then you have the power to change it. Rohn had this rule: work harder on yourself than you do on your job. That's the core thesis. If you work hard on your job, you can make a living. That's fine, that pays the bills. But if you work hard on yourself, that is how you make a fortune.
I love that distinction. Making a living versus making a fortune. But let's break that down. What does working on yourself actually look like in a practical sense? Because I think people hear that and think, okay, I need to go meditate on a mountain or I need to read a textbook. But Rohn was talking about something more fundamental, right?
Much more fundamental. He was talking about value, the marketplace, and we can define the marketplace as your job, your business, or even your social circle pays for value, not time. It's a harsh reality. You don't get paid for the hour, you get paid for the value you bring to the hour. So working on yourself means increasing your value. It's skill acquisition, it's emotional intelligence, it's discipline, and it's philosophy.
Philosophy. That feels like a heavy word for a Tuesday morning.
Laughs. It does, doesn't it? But Rohn didn't mean Plato or Aristotle in the academic sense. He meant your personal guidance system. He called it the set of the sail. You know, the same wind blows on us all. The wind of disaster, the wind of opportunity, the wind of change. The economic wind is the same for everyone right now. But why do some arrive at a destination of wealth and others at a destination of poverty? It's not the blowing of the wind, it's the set of the sail. That's your philosophy. How you think determines how you steer.
I see. So, if my philosophy is the world is out to get me, I'm steering right into the rocks. But if my philosophy is I can learn from this, I'm catching the wind.
Precisely. And this leads to one of the most critical aspects of his teachings, the concept of the seasons of life. This is where people get tripped up. They expect life to be a perpetual summer. They want the harvest without the winter. But Rohn reminds us that winters, the recessions, the personal losses, the failures are inevitable. You can't stop the winter. You can't tear up the calendar.
So, what do? Just hunker down and suffer?
No, you get stronger. You don't wish for fewer problems. You wish for more skills. You don't wish it was easier. You wish you were better. That's the shift. Most people are waiting for the winter to turn into summer by magic. The successful person uses the winter to sharpen their tools, to read, to plan, so that when spring comes, and spring always comes, they are ready to plant.
That wish you were better line, that hits hard. It removes the victim mentality instantly. But let's talk about the cost of this, because becoming better isn't free. It costs energy, it costs time. Rohn talked a lot about discipline, and I feel like discipline has become a dirty word lately. Everyone wants flow and ease.
Chuckles. Everyone wants the result. Nobody wants the process. Rohn had this brilliant equation regarding discipline. He said we must all suffer from one of two pains, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. The difference is that discipline weighs ounces while regret weighs tons.
Ounces versus tons. That puts it into perspective.
It does. And the miracle of personal development is that the discipline doesn't actually have to be this massive Herculean effort. It's usually a few simple disciplines practiced every day, eating that apple instead of the candy bar, reading 10 pages of a book instead of scrolling social media. The problem is because they are easy to do, they are also easy not to do.
That's the trap. It's easy not to do it. One day of skipping the gym doesn't kill you. One day of spending too much money doesn't bankrupt you.
Exactly. That's the insidious nature of failure. It's not a cataclysmic event, it's a subtle accumulation of poor judgment. It doesn't matter. That phrase is the killer of dreams. Conversely, success is just a few simple disciplines practiced daily. The miracle happens when those small disciplines compound over time. It's the compound effect. You don't see the change in day 4 or day 10, but in year 2, you're a completely different human being.
I want to pivot slightly to something that connects with our listeners' desire for status and connection. We've talked about internal work, discipline, philosophy. What about the external? Rohn had strong views on who we surround ourselves with.
Ah, the law of association. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. This is usually the hardest pill for people to swallow, because sometimes it means you have to fire your friends.
That sounds harsh. Firing your friends.
It is harsh, but let's look at the logic. If you are trying to grow to become more, but you are surrounded by people who are comfortable with stagnation, who mock ambition, or who are constantly negative, they are anchors. You cannot sail forward with 5 anchors dragging in the mud. Rohn suggested we need to audit our associations. Ask yourself 3 questions. Who am I around? What are they doing to me? And is that okay?
What are they doing to me? That's a scary question if you answer it honestly. It's not just about them being bad people, right? They could be lovely people, just not going where you're going.
Exactly. They might be good people in the sense that they are kind, but they might be bad for your destination. Rohn didn't say you have to cut everyone off completely. He talked about limited association versus expanded association. Spend major time with minor people and you get minor results. Spend major time with major people, people who challenge you, who are ahead of you, and you accelerate. It's practically osmosis. You absorb their standards.
So let's tie this back to the miracle. We have the discipline, the environment, the philosophy. But why is it called a miracle? Is it because the results seem disproportionate to the effort?
I think it's called a miracle because of the transformation of the self. Rohn famously said, set a goal to become a millionaire for what it will make of you to achieve it. The money is secondary. The money is just a score. The miracle is that to become a millionaire ethically and sustainably, you have to become a person of discipline, a person of value, a person of character. Even if you lost all the money, you'd still be worth $1 million because of who you are.
That's the key right there. If you give $1 million to someone who hasn't developed themselves,
they lose it. Look at lottery winners. They get the money, but they haven't become the person capable of holding it. They shrink back to the level of their personal development. But if you take everything away from a self-made successful person, they will build it back. Why? Because they are the success. The success isn't in the bank account, it's in the mind and the habits.
that is such a profound shift in thinking. It moves the goalpost from getting stuff to becoming someone. It aligns with those core desires we all have: money, time, health, status. We think we want the money, but what we really want is the freedom and the identity that we assume comes with the money.
Precisely. We are chasing the shadow instead of the object. Personal development is the object, it's the source. If you focus on your health, your knowledge, your communication skills, your emotional resilience, the 4 horsemen of desire you mentioned, wealth, time, health, status, they show up as byproducts. You don't have to chase them, you attract them.
I want to touch on one last thing before we wrap up: the concept of the day that turns your life around. Rohn spoke about this emotional tipping point. Is personal development always a slow grind, or can it happen in a flash?
It's both. The process is slow, but the decision can be instant. Rohn talked about the power of disgust. It sounds negative, but it's a powerful motivator. The day you say, I've had it, I am not living like this anymore, I am not going to be broke another day, I am not going to be out of shape another day. That moment of resolve, that emotional explosion, is often the spark. But the fuel that keeps the fire burning is the daily development.
It's that moment of drawing a line in the sand. Enough is enough.
Yes, and if you're listening to this and you feel that frustration, that's actually a good sign. Frustration can be the beginning of the miracle. It means you know you're capable of more. The tragedy isn't the person who fails. The tragedy is the person who could have been great but settled for comfort. Rohn's challenge to us is, how tall will a tree grow?
As tall as it possibly can.
As tall as it possibly can. Trees don't have a choice. They don't grow half as high as they could because they feel lazy today. Humans have the choice. We can choose to grow or we can choose to shrink. The miracle of personal development is simply making the choice every single day to grow as tall as you possibly can.
That is beautiful. It really simplifies everything down to that daily choice. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the set of the sail to the ounces versus tons of discipline and the vital importance of who we surround ourselves with.
Then, if I could leave the listeners with one final thought, it would be this: don't underestimate the power of the next 5 years. 5 years are going to pass anyway. The question is, who will you be when they arrive? Will you be the same person with the same complaints and the same bank balance? Or will you be someone who has tapped into their potential? The miracle is waiting, but it requires your participation.
5 years are going to pass anyway. That's a sobering thought to end on, but also a hopeful one. It means the clock is ticking, but the steering wheel is in our hands.
The sail is set. It's up to you to catch the wind.
Thank you for this deep dive. It's been incredible to unpack these timeless truths.
My pleasure. Let's go work on ourselves.
Absolutely. And to everyone listening, thanks for being part of the conversation. We'll catch you in the next episode.